Good afternoon. Aloha from Florida. So I was just sharing a story with my wife and my children about a conversation I had a couple days ago with a globe zealot. You know, people who believe in the globe, they have to do some crazy mental gymnastics to try to make sense of what they are told they have to believe if they're going to believe in the globe. Now, most globe zealots don't even know everything that they have to agree to say that the earth is a globe. So we were having a conversation with this young man. I forget whose live it was on, but anyway, here's what he said when he was talking about the speeds of the earth. He didn't know the claimed speeds of the earth. For those of you who believe in the globe and don't know, I'll tell them to you. And you have to admit, I mean, the flat earthers already know this. It's funny that flat earthers know more about the globe than the people who claim to believe in it and the people that are online trying to defend it. So allegedly, the earth is rotating at the equator at about 1,000 miles an hour. Allegedly, the earth is orbiting, it's revolving around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour. Allegedly, it is chasing the sun through the Milky Way at 500,000 miles an hour. And allegedly, our entire Milky Way system is going through the Great Void towards the Great Attractor, is what they tell you, at over 1.2 million miles per hour. And so we were making fun of the Great Attractor. What is that? Nobody knows what that is. And he had never even heard of the Great Attractor. And so he was doing mental gymnastics and said, well, that's probably just some really big mass out there somewhere. And I said, oh, so if it's a really big mass, could we just, be a smart ass and call it a big ass mass? And he goes, I guess you could. I said, and I wonder because, NASA says that Uranus passes gas a couple times a day. It releases air pressure. It passes gas twice a day. Maybe the big ass mass passes gas. And then his mental gymnastics kicked in and he said, well, they also say, well, maybe the Great Attractor is inside of a black hole. And I said, bro, you just made the story better. Now you're saying the big ass mass passes gas out of its black hole. The globe is a scientific absurdity. Reality is flat and stationary. I've said this so many times. We don't have a solar system. We have an Earth system. The sun is the primary luminary within that system. The sun, the moon, the planets, which are wandering stars, and the fixed stars, the fixed constellations, all move over our flat and stationary surface and around our electromagnetic center for all of recorded history. And they're still making the same motions tonight in 2026. The claims of the solar system, the claims of the globe theory, that everything is out there just working in perfect divine clockwork order from an accidental big bang, but they can't even solve the three-body problem. They can't get more than two bodies of mass rotating and revolving around each other before the system collapses on itself and destroys itself. But yet they claim that there's 188 bodies just here in our system, and they're working perfectly. Again, the globe is a scientific absurdity. Flat Earth is the only reality. And if you will research geocentric cosmology and learn the motions of the luminaries over our flat Earth, around our electromagnetic center, which is right over here, Polaris is right over there every night of the year, and that is the North Star, the pole star in the sky. On the ground, right underneath it, is the North Pole. Think of the Earth like a dartboard, lay it flat. The bullseye is like the North Pole. Directly over that, almost directly over that in the sky is the North Star Polaris, and that is an electromagnetic pole, and all of the luminaries, sun, moon, planets, and fixed constellations move around that in perfect divine clockwork order. Go check out our documentary called The Mechanical Realm. It is about the Antikythera mechanism, and it will teach you what I just said about the luminaries working in precise, perfect, divine clockwork cycles over our flat Earth and around our electromagnetic center. Again, that documentary is called The Mechanical Realm by Vika Draza.
If you still believe the Earth is a globe in 2026, have you ever wondered why nobody, literally nobody, has ever crossed the South Pole and popped out on the other side of the world? Think about it. We've got GPS, satellites, billionaires in space, but the South Pole, off limits. Why? Because what they call the South Pole might actually be the biggest flat Earth proof, hiding in plain sight. We're told Earth is a spinning ball with Antarctica as a frozen continent at the bottom. But if that's true, shouldn't people be able to fly straight across the South Pole and keep going? You can book a flight over the North Pole, no problem, but try booking one across the South Pole. You can't. They don't exist. Instead, every so-called Antarctic expedition goes to one tiny base camp, plants a flag, and calls it science. And don't even get me started on the Antarctic Treaty, the only treaty in history signed by almost every nation on Earth saying nobody can freely explore it. Why is this one patch of frozen desert the most protected place on the planet? What are they hiding? Flat Earth researchers say it's because Antarctica isn't a continent at the bottom of a ball. It's the edge, the outer boundary of our world. On a flat Earth map, Antarctica isn't a little island at the bottom. It's a massive ice wall encircling us, holding the oceans in. Suddenly, the no-fly zone and the mysterious treaty make perfect sense. Instead of letting us explore, they keep us trapped in the globe narrative while quietly locking down the one place that could blow the entire lie wide open. And here's the wild part. Flight paths in the southern hemisphere prove it. If Earth were a globe, flying from South America to Australia should be a straight shot over the South Pole. But in reality, those flights detour north, sometimes thousands of miles out of the way. Why? Because you can't fly over something that doesn't exist the way they told us it does. Even Admiral Richard Byard, a U.S. Navy officer who led multiple Antarctic expeditions, admitted there was land beyond the pole bigger than the United States. Wait, land beyond the pole. On a spinning ball, that makes no sense at all. But on a flat Earth, it fits perfectly.
The sun is within the firmament. When you say, well, within, aren't we in the firmament? No, we're under the firmament. When you put your milk in the refrigerator, do you put it in the refrigerator or under the refrigerator?
In.
So I think they're above the dome that is enclosing us, that's holding our air in here, that's making us able to breathe. And I think that it is projecting or lensing through, and then we see it in a position that's relative to each viewer. So we all see, like if you and I were at the beach watching the sunset, you know how you see the sun walk across the water to your feet? If we were 10 feet apart or 10 yards or 1,000 yards apart, we're both going to see the sun walking on the water to our feet, and we're going to see the sun in different positions.
Mm-hmm.
So we both have a personal relationship with the sun that walks on water. That's a whole nother thing. All right.
Okay.
So we don't see the same sun. So people say, well, triangulate the sun. You can't, because if we wanted to triangulate the center of your TV screen, we could do it. We could measure between us. We could measure to that. But if we both saw that dot in different positions, we couldn't do it. I do an experiment. I took my room and I hung a blue bed sheet dividing the room in two. And on one side of the room, I put a bright light, and I'm standing on the other side looking at the sheet. I can't see the light, but I can see the light through the sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if that light was back behind my head, right? And here's the sheet, you're going to see that light right here on the sheet. Right here's the sheet, the light's right there. If I was standing over there, I'm going to see that light on the sheet over here. We're both seeing the same light, but in two actual different positions.
Before the moon landings were even staged, NASA and the CIA murdered 3 astronauts. This was Apollo 1, where 3 astronauts would be strapped down to a rocket and burned alive without ever even taking liftoff. The commander of that mission was Gus Grissom, a man whose family believes his death wasn't an accident, but a conspiracy. Now, according to his wife, after receiving several death threats, he told her, if there was ever a serious accident to ever happen within the space program, it would likely be me. Now, why was that? Because he was openly criticizing NASA on their ability to put men on the moon. He didn't think it was going to happen. Being frustrated, Gus went to the media to hold an unauthorized press conference. He not only exposed all the failures of the program, but shared his confusion on how NASA could promise reaching the moon in 2 years when he believed it was at least a decade away. And 50 plus years later, and we still haven't been quote unquote back because we never went. Anyways, in that press conference, Grissom hangs up a lemon in front of the rocket to let NASA and all the news cameras see exactly what he thought of the Apollo program. A lemon, a piece of junk. Now guess what happens 5 days later? Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee are burned alive in their command module. They'd be sent on a completely unnecessary and dangerous test where they'd be strapped down and locked into a 100% oxygen chamber, incinerating them in seconds. Moments before the fire, we have video footage showing Grissom frustrated again, unable to reach launch control through a wired intercom, with one of his last words being,
"Hey, how are we gonna get to the moon? We can't talk between 3 buildings."
and the official reason for the fire, which was concluded just a week after the incident: faulty wiring. Right. These men were burned alive so bad that their suits fused to the cabin floor, and it took them an hour and a half to detach them. Now what's interesting is Gus had told his wife he'd seen the CIA on the launch pad for the first time the day before the fire. After his death, CIA raided his home, seized all his personal documents, including a report he planned to give to his senator. Both of Grissom's sons, along with his wife, believe his death was no accident, but an intentional hit by the CIA. So let's recap. Grissom humiliates NASA, calls the rocket a lemon, receives death threats. CIA is seen on the launch pad for the first time the day before the incident. Then the men are burned alive in a sealed oxygen chamber for a test. It becomes obvious this was a cover-up. These men didn't die by trying to reach the moon. They were silenced because they would have exposed it.
If heat rises, then the higher you go, the hotter it should get. Warm air rises, cool air sinks. Right. But the actual atmosphere does not work that way. Temperature drops as you climb. Colder at mountain tops, colder at altitude. The heat that supposedly rose is just gone. Don't scroll, because where that heat goes changes everything about the sky above. Here is what the science says. Warm air rises because it is lighter. Rising air expands. Expanding air cools. So warm air becomes cool as it ascends. Not preserved as heat at altitude. The atmosphere is heated from the surface. Surface warms the touching air. That warm air rises, cools as it expands. Never arrives warm at the top, clean enough. But here is the part that creates discomfort. Above the troposphere where temperature drops, there is a layer where it rises, then drops, then rises to thousands of degrees, down, up, like a designed system, not a simple column of rising air. And here is what sits there. An open atmosphere on a ball in cold space should radiate heat into the vacuum. Lower layers should cool to match the surrounding space. But they do not. The atmosphere maintains consistent temperature layers, predictable, stable, like a sealed environment. Not an open system bleeding heat into a vacuum. On a flat plane model, the atmosphere is contained within the firmament dome. Heat circulates within the sealed system. Temperature layers reflect the contained environment. Nothing escapes into cold space. Steam rising from soup hits a cold ceiling and spreads sideways. In a sealed container, temperature layers stay stable. The flat plane dome works the same way. Contained, layered.